Congratulations. You've just woken up on a chilly October morning in 1984. Only the year isn't spelled out on the lock screen calendar of your iPhone anymore, because your lock screen calendar doesn't exist. In fact, nothing digital exists, at least not for private citizens. And the frosty breath fogging your eyelashes reminds you that this is Moscow, capital of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, where the future showed up wearing gray wool and queuing for bread. Now, before you panic, get comfortable, really. Adjust those pillows, pull the blanket to your chin, maybe grab a mug of something warm. Oh, and if you enjoy these sleepy dives into twisted timelines, tap that subscribe button and let me know in the comments which city you're dozing off in tonight. It's always wild seeing viewers nodding off from Manila to Manchester. Right, back to Red Square, the granite-colored heart of a country that measures time in 5-year plans. Your very presence is an anachronism, but the neon, bright rectangle vibrating in your palm is practically witchcraft. You bring the screen to life with a thumbprint, a gesture that hasn't been invented yet, and the luminescence alone makes a pair of militia conscripts drop their cigarettes. See, in '84, most Soviet telephones still have rotary dials. The concept of a pocket computer that calls California sounds like either decadent Western propaganda or the beginning of a Kafka story. You catch a reflection of St. Basil's Cathedral swirling in your camera lens, and for a second, it looks like the cathedral itself is glowing. Funny how paranoia works. The soldiers stare, you slip the iPhone into your coat, and instantly the paranoid feeling is mutual. Their gaze says capitalist saboteur, while yours says please don't confiscate my battery life. And about that battery life. No USB ports, no Starbucks outlets, no comforting buzz of 15-watt fast charging. The only sockets you'll find cling to crumbly apartment walls and are wired for 2-prong Soviet plugs running at 220 volts AC. You run quick math in your head. 20% charge left, 80% chance that an adapter doesn't exist yet. 100% certainty that running out of power strips you of the only proof you weren't just hallucinating the 21st century. Talk about a ticking clock. Still, history marches on, and so do you, shuffling into the tail end of a bread queue. Around you, babushkas gossip in a hush about a rumored winter shortage of oranges, while children clutch ration coupons like Willy Wonka's golden tickets. You wonder if airdrop would impress them or terrify them. The answer, of course, is probably both. But that's the thing. In this universe, technology isn't a convenience. It's a class marker. Flash your gadget too openly, and you're not just a tourist. You're a threat to the status quo. By the time the queue reaches the counter, the bakery worker announces, "Chleb zakonchился." Bread's gone. A collective groan ripples through the line. For a fleeting second, you consider displaying a high-definition photo of a fresh baguette to lift spirits. Then, you imagine being dragged to Lubyanka for possession of foreign contraband, and think better of it. You tuck your phone deeper into a pocket, already stuffed with uncertainty. Somewhere overhead, speakers crackle with the patriotic strains of Pust всегда будет солнце, a children's choir promising eternal sunshine, the way politicians promise prosperity. Irony, like your phone's signal bars, is invisible, but everywhere. And there, wrapped in wool and worry, you accept that to survive this timeline, you'll need more than 80% battery. you'll need 80% caution, 20% luck, and maybe a black market electrician who doesn't ask too many questions. Don't nod off just yet. Next up, a clandestine hunt for Soviet electricity, plus the small matter of what happens when the KGB discovers a glowing apple where a hammer and sickle should be. Quick check-in. How's the pillow situation? Fluffed? Perfect. Remember to comment your time zone. I'm genuinely curious how many of you are listening from the future while we're stuck in the past. Now, our protagonist, meaning you, has slipped from Red Square's open spaces into the cramped stairwells of a Khrushchevka apartment block, each landing echoing with the clank of cast-iron radiators. Your mission: charge the phone. Your obstacle: the phone's everything. You barter entry into an apartment by helping 90-year-old Anastasia Ivanovna carry kerosene up 4 flights of stairs. Inside, the smells of dill and mothballs commingle. On a battered end table sits a Soviet transistor radio, guts exposed, humming like a bee trapped in a tin can. Electrician grandson never finishes. Anastasia sighs. Perfect. You produce the iPhone, dimmed screen, low power mode engaged. She peers through thick spectacles. Что это? Карманный телевизор. Pocket television. Not far off, honestly. Finding wire cutters in the kitchen drawer, you MacGyver a makeshift contraption involving 2 stripped leads, a vodka cap, and equal parts desperation and physics. The iPhone lights up, percentage ticking from 14 to 15. Victory! Except the moment it chimes, Anastasia crosses herself, muttering that spirits speak English now. You reassure her, but footsteps thunder in the hall, neighbors investigating foreign beeps. Adrenaline spikes. You yank the cord free, pocketing warm silicon like contraband chocolates. Battery at 16%. Good enough for GPS that can't find satellites. Useless for calls that haven't been invented here. But still a lifeline to sanity. Out on the landing, a pensioner named Yuri exchanges a knowing look. "Comrade," he whispers, "I have friends at Gorky Street. They pay well for Western miracles. Black market. Exactly the wrong kind of attention." You politely decline, scurrying down concrete stairs 2 at a time, the phone's tiny flashlight guiding the descent. Outside, dusk descends like a blackout curtain. Street lamps flicker on one by one, orange halos misting in frosty air. You swipe up Control Center, contemplating using the compass app for something, anything, but realize magnetic north hasn't changed. Your predicament, however, has. A siren wails somewhere distant. Your reflection wobbles in a puddle, overlaying a Soviet skyline with the spectral outline of 21st century tech. That's when dread surfaces. Every minute here risks butterfly effect fallout back home. What if a Soviet engineer reverse engineers the iPhone and jump-starts a cyber arms race? You duck into a dim cafe for solace. Chipped mugs, chalkboard menu listing chicory coffee and boiled cabbage. The server eyes your Levi's, suspects something. You order tea, pay in kopecks borrowed earlier, and slide into a booth. Cradling warm glass, you pull out AirPods, then sheepishly stash them. The cafe's balalaika soundtrack will have to suffice. Now, contemplate your options. 1. Hide the phone forever. Live a life of Soviet anonymity. 2. Leverage it for favors and risk becoming a pawn. 3. Find a way back to your timeline before the battery dies for good. Option 3. Sounds best, but the practicalities are murky. No flux capacitor, no Doctor Who police box, just a slab of aluminum, glass, and lithium-ion whispering, 36%. The tea cools. Your eyelids grow heavy. Across the cafe, a television screens state news. Cosmonauts prepping for a mere spacewalk. You imagine slipping them FaceTime instructions. The irony nearly makes you laugh out loud. Instead, you yawn, stretch, and realize the lullaby of Soviet life is surprisingly soporific. Perfect for drifting into sleep. Though you can't rest yet, tomorrow brings ration lines, surveillance tales, and the possibility that your phone becomes evidence in a show trial. A rooster crows outside your hostel window, except urban Moscow doesn't keep roosters. Turns out the rooster is a factory whistle, summoning workers at dawn and summoning you to new chaos. Raise your hand if you've ever cursed an alarm clock. Raise the other if the clock was an industrial siren. Great. Stretch those shoulders. Comment below what time you prefer waking up. Maybe we'll compare socialist sirens to smartphone lullabies. You slip into crowds shuffling toward the metro, the phone tucked like a secret passport. Battery at 31%. Reassuring, but not generous. Suddenly, you spot salvation. A Выставка достижений народного хозяйства poster, advertising a science expo at VDNKH. Where else would cutting-edge engineers gather? Perhaps one brilliant mind could improvise a compatible charger. Cheap, discreet, no questions asked. The metro station swallows you in vaults of polished granite. Marble statues salute from pillars. Trains whoosh in, doors sigh open, and you board, heart drumming to a waltz of paranoia. Inside, you glimpse a newspaper headline. New computer center opens in Novosibirsk. Computer, singular. Progress is slower here. Your pocket is centuries ahead. At VDNKH, pavilions gleam like retro-futurist fantasies. Sputnik replicas, neon hammer and sickles, heroic busts staring at tomorrow. A young engineer named Mikhail demonstrates a bulky mini-computer the size of a refrigerator. You feign curiosity, ask if he's ever seen silicon chips smaller than fingernails. He laughs. Only in American magazines. You almost say, I have billions in my pocket, but catch yourself. Instead, you display the iPhone's calculator app. Simple, harmless. Mikhail's eyes widen. He asks if it's Western military tech. You say it's a prototype music player. He begs to hold it. You refuse gently, claiming fragility. He offers handmade adapters. You agree to meet later for a price. One universal charger. Deal struck. You wander through Space Pavilion arches and think, did I just trade Cold War equilibrium for 30 watts of power, but the bigger risk lurks behind? Two men in leather coats tailing you? KGB operatives? Or maybe Expo security? Either way, your heart thrums. You duck into a hall displaying beekeeping equipment, weave past jars of honey, then exit through a back door onto frost-rimmed gardens. Battery check, 27%. The phone vibrates, storage almost full. Seriously? Memory anxiety in a timeline without cloud storage is peak cosmic trolling. You consider deleting photos, but each shot, St. Basil's, Anastasia's apartment, the bread line, is evidence of this surreal odyssey. Proof for your future self, or for historians. For now, keep them. Stories need receipts. Twilight approaches, and with it, your meeting. You picture Mikhail's face lit by the iPhone screen like a kid holding a firefly. You picture KGB cuffs snapping shut. You picture home, safe in bed, where this entire episode is a cozy audio track. Maybe you shake your head at how far bedtime stories have come. The expo lights flicker on, bathing Lenin's statue in neon. You exhale cold air somewhere. A Nokia ringtone hasn't been invented yet, and yet your phone, future-proof and fragile, buzzes with nothing but a reminder to breathe. Good advice. You'll need it for Part 2, where deals are struck, loyalties tested, and the line between innovation and indictment blurs like snowy television static. Night wraps the expo in shadows, and Mikhail waits beneath a colossal fiberglass Sputnik, cradling a bundle of wires. I found parts, he whispers, even heat-tested them. You hand over a Polaroid of the iPhone's charging port you sketched earlier. Close enough. He nods, fingers trembling. Somewhere, boots crunch. Those leather coat men prowl nearby. The race is on. Mikhail leads you to a maintenance closet. Fluorescent bulbs hum overhead as you strip rubber insulation off wires, twist them into a makeshift USB to Soviet plug converter, and pray. Sparks fly. Cute in a Frankenstein meets Silicon Valley way. The phone lights up, charging symbol blooming like sunrise. 29, 30, 31%. You both grin for one suspended moment. Cold War mistrust evaporates in the glow of innovation. Then the door bursts open. Coats, badges, grim faces. What is that device? The taller agent barks. Mikhail freezes. You tuck the phone behind your back, pulse racing. Just a music player, you say, throat dry. The agent snorts. Western espionage. They seize Mikhail, rifles you with interrogation about origins, schematics, motives. You offer them an unassuming demo. Open Notes app. Type Privet in large text. The simplicity disarms them for a second too long. You kill the flashlight, plunge room into darkness, yank the plug, and sprint. Hallways blur, expo visitors scream, soldiers whistle. You cut through a pavilion of tractor prototypes, clamber over diesel engines. Outside, snowflakes drift, reflecting siren lights. Behind a socialist realist mural, you duck, breathing steam. Battery now 35%. Gains balanced by danger. Mikhail appears, miraculously escaped. Blood on lip, determination in eyes. They will find you, he says, but maybe I can help you leave Moscow. You nod, resolve hardening. Together, you slip through perimeter fences. Hitch a ride on a delivery truck bound for Sheremetyevo Airport. Airport security is tight, but less so for maintenance staff. Mikhail's cousin works baggage ramps. A forged ID lands you in cargo hold among crates of caviar. The plan: board a freight flight to Helsinki, then figure out how to time hop home. Simple? Hardly. Possible? Battery at 38% says maybe. As engines roar, you glance through a hatch. Floodlights flicker on the tarmac, forming long shadows of men searching. You tuck the iPhone into your boot. Whisper thanks to Mikhail. He grips your shoulder. If our paths cross again, bring me stories of that music player. You promise. Then climb into freezing darkness, the hatch sealing behind like a chapter ending on a breath. And that's precisely where we'll pause. Part 2 has delivered charged suspense, literally, and Part 3 will test how far a gadget can carry you across iron curtains and paradoxes. For now, close your eyes, tune out turbine hum, and drift. The cargo plane thunders over snow-smudged forests. You huddle between fish crates, heart sinking with engine vibrations. Cabin lights remain off, perfect for dozing listeners among us. Speaking of which, still awake? Maybe grab a sip of water. Hydration existentialism aside, let me know what comfort item you'd smuggle into a time-traveling USSR. Blanket, chocolate, drop it in the comments. Hours later, the plane lands in Helsinki under a pewter dawn. Customs officials board, barking Finnish greetings. You slip out behind a forklift, phone clamped to thigh. Battery shows 32%. cold drains lithium faster. Outside, a cab driver questions your lack of passport. You mutter about lost luggage and flash Google Maps offline download of Helsinki, ironically your last vacation. He shrugs, drives. Freedom hums but is fragile. Soviet agents may alert Finnish border patrol. In the city center, you find a cafe with actual espresso. The barista's Walkman suggests capitalism thrives here. You power on the phone. LTE towers welcome you like old friends, except it's 1984, and networks broadcast analog signals. No dice. You settle for brightness set to low, save juice. Enter Lisa, anthropology student scribbling notes on Cold War defectors. She notices your disheveled look and the sleek slab you cradle. "American?" she asks. You nod vaguely. She assumes you're a runaway GI. Over croissants, you reveal tiny truths. Device from future, chased by KGB. And she laughs, calling it the most creative pickup line she's heard. You demo the panorama camera. Her skepticism wavers. She wants proof of time travel. You show her tomorrow's weather via pre-downloaded forecast. Snow at noon, clear skies by 6. She bets her scarf you're bluffing. You accept. To recharge, you buy a Euro plug adapter. Hallelujah for standardized sockets. Battery climbs 38, 42, 48%. As electrons flow, relief floods you. Connection to home timeline edges closer. Lisa suggests meeting a Finnish computer scientist who tinkers with microprocessors. Perhaps he can interpret your phone's mysteries, maybe even help replicate its time shift. But tension shadows comfort. What if revealing too much tech accelerates Finnish industry, rewriting history again? Butterfly wings hover. In a bookstore, you read headlines. Soviet delegation arriving to discuss trade. KGB likely embedded. Time is thinner than Nordic daylight. Snow begins precisely at noon. Lisa stares, astonished. Scarf surrendered. She now believes something wilder than espionage. You propose leaving the iPhone off-grid, burying it until your original era exists again. She counters. Maybe the phone itself is the portal. If battery hits 0, you revert home. A morbid countdown, you part ways, promising to meet at Helsinki harbor dusk. As she leaves, a black Volga sedan creeps along the curb. Soviet plates. A man photographs you with a Zenit camera. The curtain lifts on Act 2 of this international cat-and-mouse ballet. Evening paints the harbor in sherbet hues. Ice floes clink like cocktail glasses. You pace the pier, scanning for Lisa, Volga sedans, Salvation. Battery, 47%. Every percentage feels like a heartbeat. Lisa arrives, brandishing a sketchbook of circuit diagrams scrawled by her scientist friend. He thinks your device could be reverse-engineered if we remove the back. Panic flares. One wrong pry and home might vanish. You decide. Keep the phone intact. Find temporal exit instead. A ferry horn blares. Across water, an Estonian vessel loads passengers. Lisa suggests boarding. By crossing to Tallinn, you could slip deeper into Soviet sphere, find the rift you fell through, or risk permanent exile. You step onto gangway and hear shouted Russian. Leathercoat agents sprint toward pier. The choice is forced. You and Lisa race aboard. Ferry pulls away amid curses. Safe for now. Wind slaps your face, snowflakes stinging. You open photos, swipe through timeline. Last selfie in 2025, birthday dinner lights, then abrupt leap to Red Square. The contrast hurts, but it's proof of home. Lisa peers, whispers, "What year is that?" You tell her, She exhales, calls it sci-fi come alive. On deck, you two devise endgame. Find the exact spot in Talon where cosmic seam might reopen, perhaps triggered by electromagnetic surge or simply by will. Lisa references folklore, thin places where worlds touch. Maybe Soviet-era radio jammers inadvertently tore space-time. You fell through. At 43% battery, the phone buzzes. Calendar event reminder, update iOS tonight. You laugh. How quaint. Lisa suggests obeying. Maybe software refresh resets chronology. No Wi-Fi, but you try anyway. Update fails, but phone restarts. And for a split second the screen glitches with snow static reminiscent of Soviet TV. When it returns, the date reads 2025 again, followed by 84, blinking beneath. Dual timestamps flicker like heartbeat monitors. Lisa gasps, scribbles. You hold your breath. Suddenly, cold air warms, horizon blurs, harbor water ripples unnaturally. Passengers scream, agents on distant pier freeze. Your phone grows hot. Brightness surges. A column of light, seen only by you and Lisa, spirals upward. She grabs your sleeve. This is it. You clutch her hand, step toward light, and everything liquefies into white noise. You wake on a park bench under modern LED streetlights. Ads for 5G phones. Glow. Traffic hums with hybrids. The date on your watch, your old Apple Watch, reads July 31st, 2025. You made it. Battery shows 91% as though months never passed. Nearby, a tourist snaps a selfie with Lenin's statue turned hipster art installation. Moscow again, but reimagined. Memory floods. Anastasia's apartment, VDNKH chase, Finnish ferry. You spin. Lisa sits beside you, wide-eyed, clutching her scarf. You both laugh, cry, marvel. She's 25th century culture-shocked within minutes, tapping contactless payment, gaping at holographic billboards. Over lattes you catch her up. Internet, memes, streaming. She absorbs quickly. After all, she believed in time travel before caffeine. But a question haunts. Did history shift? Newsfeed shows USSR dissolved in 1991. Unchanged. Good. Your interference minimal or elegantly self-correcting. Yet anomalies lurk. Headline about a Finnish tech pioneer named M. Kuznetsov inventing ultra-efficient battery cells in 2014. Mikhail, looks like that Expo spark lit a future, butterfly wings returned, but in Finland, not Moscow. You decide to locate him. A quick search yields Silicon Valley keynote footage. He thanks an anonymous traveler for inspiration. Heart swells. You text Lisa, because now she has a phone, a link. She smiles, whispers, fate is symmetrical, but equilibrium demands secrecy. You and Lisa vow silence, deleting photos. The iPhone remains souvenir, but you keep it offline. Relic and reminder. Midnight frost silvers the railings of Patriarchy Bridge, while street lamps halo their own breath like shy fireflies. And you and Lisa linger at the midpoint, clasping paper cups of cinnamon-dusted cacao that steam against the indigo sky. Downriver, ice sheets drift in slow, creaking flotillas. Upriver, the Kremlin's ruby stars pulse like distant heartbeats, as if verifying reality after your chrononaut detour. The cityscape is a collision of eras. Gleaming glass towers shoulder Soviet wedding cake monoliths, and somewhere below, an LED billboard loops an ad for a phone upgrade that already feels quaint compared with the pocket-sized wormhole you survived. It's quieter here than you expected for a metropolis of millions. The hush almost conspiratorial, inviting reflection. as surely as a library's hush invites intellect. Lisa exhales a laugh of relief, but you sense the tremor of dislocation beneath. She left a world of cassette tapes and rotary phones this morning, and now contactless pay chirps from every kiosk. You squeeze her gloved hand. The gesture says, "We made it, and we're still making it," because adaptation isn't an instant download. You decide to walk, letting each step imprint the present tense more firmly. First stop. A 24-hour convenience store glowing like a portal. A robotic barista hums behind plexiglass, steaming oat milk lattes while a shelf of imported dragon fruit popsicles blinks under ultraviolet. Lisa, still nursing cafe culture whiplash, circles a fridge display of energy drinks emblazoned with lightning bolts. "Is everyone here a cosmonaut now?" she whispers, and you realize half the vocabulary she learned at Helsinki University is already obsolete. You find a rack of postcards, Lenin sport in VR goggles, Pushkin beatboxing under neon, icons repackaged for TikTok virality. On impulse, you buy one depicting St. Basil's wrapped in augmented reality fireworks. You plan to mail it to Mikhail, the engineer whose spark of curiosity blazed across decades. His company headquarters sits in Silicon Valley, but corporate mailrooms still accept snail mail, and irony travels well by envelope. Outside, the night air tastes of peppered pine from a nearby street vendor roasting shashlik. Lisa bites into a skewer, marveling that meat is no longer rationed. Between mouthfuls, she peppers you with questions. What replaced the Berlin Wall? Why does everyone carry reusable tote bags? Who is Harry Potter? And why do his scarves outsell Lenin mugs? You answer gently, weaving history's pivot points. The fall of perestroika, the birth of the dot-com bubble, the rise of binge-watch culture, into a lullaby narrative. She listens, eyes glinting like two zip disks catching sunrise. Occasionally, she shudders, understanding the weight of lost decades, friends aged beyond recognition, theories disproved, songs yet to be written. But wonder outpaces grief, and soon she's scanning QR codes with your spare phone, like a kid feeding bread to futuristic ducks. You reach Gorky Park, where fiber optic sled runs snake between pop art sculptures of cosmonauts on skateboards, synth pop pulses from hidden speakers. Couples glide on smart skates with gyroscopic stabilizers. You rent two, because why not baptize a time traveler in tech? And soon, Lisa is wheeling figure eights, scarf fluttering like aurora. The moment is silly, splendid and bigger than the Cold War that once defined her. You recall a line from a bedtime speech Khrushchev never gave. History's cement can crumble for anyone willing to laugh at walls. You shout the paraphrase across the ice, and she twirls in reply, a living revision note scrawled across the margins of chronology. Cocoa finished, skates returned. You wander toward the metro again, drawn by neon arrows that promise the future this way. Below ground, interactive murals play looped animations of Tchaikovsky conducting laser symphonies. Commuters tap wristbands at turnstiles, and LED panels forecast train arrivals to the split second. Lisa blinks at the precision. Back in '84, jam-packed carriages rattled in unpredictable spurts. Here, the train whooshes in soundlessly, doors aligning with floor LEDs like choreography. You ride 2 stops, simply to watch augmented navigation lines bloom on the carriage walls, then emerge near Zaryadye Park's floating bridge. An architectural ribbon arching over the river. The vantage is perfect for one more ritual, deleting the photos. You scroll through the gallery, grainy bread queue, Anastasia's kerosene lamp, a blurred shot of Mikhail under fiberglass Sputnik, Lisa's incredulous grin on the ferry. Each frame is a breadcrumb trail to paradox. Each pixel tips history toward uncharted variables. With a deep breath, you start selecting. The phone vibrates, a gentle prompt. Move 47 items to recently deleted. Your thumb hovers. Lisa watches, understanding coursing between you like static. Together, you tap. Yes. Memory becomes memory again, no longer proof but private legend. You empty the trash, and the phone's storage bar shrinks. In doing so, the past's gravitational pull loosens a notch. Battery reads 87%. You think, preservation isn't always about saving. It's about choosing what to carry forward. Now comes closure. You coax Lisa to record a voice memo, a chronicle of her leap, then enable encrypted vault, a digital diary sealed until 2054. $50 in crypto pays for the secure cloud plan. She giggles at the idea of money stored in math. You reassure her. By the time the file unlocks, she'll have lived more in this new century than she ever dreamed possible. Maybe she'll lecture on lived anachronism. Maybe she'll start a bakery that prints QR codes on macarons. You don't need specifics. History's surprise is half its charm. From the bridge, you glimpse a riverside cafe pulsing with lo-fi beats and string lights, perfect backdrop for the episode's coda. Inside, soft chairs swallow you like friendly trenches, while Lisa browses a digital menu on a projection table. You tap open an article. Kuznetsov Energy Group reveals battery recycling breakthrough. A photo shows Mikhail, older, gray at the temples, holding a medium-sized power cell, whose design echoes the iPhone charger you cobbled together. Quote, beneath, innovation begins when curiosity outruns caution. You smile, tapping share, but instead of posting on socials, you simply bookmark. Legacy kept subtle. You owe the listeners their lullaby, so you slip AirPods in and hit record on a fresh audio track. Voice low, cadence slow, you recap the Odyssey. For them, for yourself. You paint sensory miniatures. The smell of Soviet rye, the crackle of Expo loudspeakers, the scalp-tingling fear when floodlights snapped on at Sheremetyevo. Then you pivot to lessons gleaned. Technology, you whisper, is simultaneously matchstick and lantern. Wielded in scarcity, it ignites rebellion. Nestled in abundance, it merely illuminates boredom. What matters is the human firewall, empathy that governs its flare. You invite listeners to ponder which tool in their own pockets could spark empathy if transplanted to a harsher hour. A lullaby app, a language translator, a playlist of protest songs. Ask them to drop answers in comments. Ask them their local time, because collapsing distances is part of the spell. Across the table, Lisa fiddles with a smart ring that controls ambient lighting. The LEDs obey, cycling through colors like mineral moodstones. You register her wonder, then sign off the recording with gratitude and a gentle pitch for subscription. So you don't miss our next sideways stumble into antiquity. You promise a voyage to classical Athens armed with a smart speaker that mispronounces phronesis. You chuckle at the irony of AI talking virtue ethics. Then you flick off the mic and exhale. Outside, Moscow's skyline blurs into watercolor as snow begins again. Soft, persistent, patient as time itself. You and Lisa step onto the quay, each flake erasing a breadcrumb of your sidestep life. She loops her arm through yours. Together, you watch headlights ghost across the river, turning the surface into a rolling gallery of transient stars. Battery at 85% glows steady. A night light now, not a lifeline. You tuck the phone into an inner pocket. Zip it shut. Tomorrow, you'll find a safe deposit box and cradle the device in velvet, letting it retire as museum piece rather than oracle. Final thoughts ripple in like tide. History didn't notice your detour, because history contains multitudes, each buffered by kindness. Anastasia still shakes kerosene lamps somewhere in memory. Mikhail still calibrates spark gaps in another. And Lisa is proof that horizons can widen in a single heartbeat. You turn to her. Ask what she misses from the past already. She answers, surprising herself. The quiet. You nod. Progress hums louder than prophecy. But hush lives on. In midnight bridges, in snow's hush, in sleep stories whispered over earbuds. You vow to protect that hush, to weave it into every future episode. You reach the metro entrance. Time for farewells, both to Lisa, who's enrolling in an accelerated language program, and to our sleepy audience. You open notes, type a final message. If this story slipped into your dreams, press like. Comment your city and what message you'd send to yourself 5 decades back. And, as always, subscribe for more history turned inside out. Copy, paste into description queue, schedule the upload for midnight across every time zone, because somewhere someone needs a lullaby exactly when their tomorrow wavers. Escalators carry you down, humming like distant drones. You wave to Lisa as she takes the opposite escalator up toward dawn. She turns, lifts the scarf you won in your weather wager, and twirls it like a victory pennant. The fluorescent lights flicker. For half a second, she's lit in monochrome, like an old Soviet reel. Then color floods back, vibrant, alive, unstoppable. Doors glide shut behind you. The train rolls forward, and in the windows you catch your reflection. A traveler defined less by device than by decisions. History, boring, beautiful, breathing, stretches ahead, and you ride its rails into restful dark. Good night, fellow chrononauts. Sleep tight. Keep curiosity charged, and may your dreams always find Wi-Fi. In the hazy space between nodding off and truly dreaming, you traveled across 4 decades, 2 political systems, and a single thin line of lithium-charged light. That detour, beginning in a Moscow bread queue, arcing through a Finnish snowstorm, then landing back under 21st century LED billboards, offers more than a spy novel thrill. It reveals how every technology, no matter how dazzling, is ultimately a mirror that reflects the values, fears, and hopes of the hands that cradle it. In 1984, your iPhone's glow felt heretical, as though you'd smuggled a star into a basement lit by kerosene. People didn't recoil from the screen. They recoiled from what it meant. Proof of inequality, evidence of an outside world that promised more than ration books and slogans. Anastasia, clutching her worn icon, saw witchcraft where you saw low power mode. The militia recruits glimpsed not just a gadget, but the specter of Western invasion. One slab of aluminum became an existential Rorschach. Fast forward literally to the neon present. And that same slab is something we misplace between couch cushions. We take its miracles for granted, forgetting that a camera sharper than Hubble's first lens now spends its days photographing lattes. Our timelines overflow with memes instead of moments, yet each swipe is still a petition for connection. Someone, somewhere, look at what I found. Tell me I'm not alone. That universal yearning was just as loud in Anastasia's kitchen, only expressed through hushed confidences and chipped teacups. Swap silicon for samovars, and the core desire is unchanged. Your midnight sprint also underscores the double-edged nature of progress. When curiosity outruns fear, an improvised charger stitched from vodka caps and wire scraps can light a clandestine friendship. Mikhail's wide-eyed wonder didn't topple governments, yet decades later, his name adorns battery patents that keep today's electric buses humming. A single spark, shared in secret, cascaded through time more gracefully than any revolution. And Lisa, pulled from an analog century into a digital maelstrom, illustrates human plasticity. She swapped transistor radios for smart rings in one sleepless day, not because the interface was intuitive, but because you walked beside her, translating Wi-Fi passwords into trust. But empathy, like battery life, demands vigilance. It drains unseen whenever we scroll past suffering, rendered abstract by distance or difference. In the USSR, callousness hid behind ideology. Today, it hides behind algorithms that curate comfort. Our challenge is to keep choosing human stories over frictionless silence. Remember the bread line. Strangers shuffled forward, each step measured in hope that the loaf wouldn't run out. Now, recall your own checkout line. Maybe at a cafe where the oat milk arrives, Fomart perfect. What if you saw every barista, every commuter, every online handle as someone still waiting for bread, literal or metaphorical? How might that change your notifications etiquette, your retweets, your whispered judgments? Kindness, then, is both bridge and buffer. It stitched the seams of a timeline that nearly tore when your phone flickered with dual dates. It carried you through checkpoints, across ferry decks, and, finally, onto a Moscow bridge dusted in holographic snow. History didn't notice the detour because kindness is quiet. It repairs without headlines, corrects without credit, and neutralizes the butterfly effect chaos our inventions unleash. When progress hums too loudly, kindness is the soft reverb that keeps the melody human. So the real time machine was never the glowing rectangle. It was every small decision to see, to listen, and to share. Whether you're caught in a Cold War bread queue or doom scrolling at 3 a.m., a technology's value is still measured in the empathy it amplifies. Tomorrow, when your battery icon slips into the red, don't just search for an outlet. Search for a conversation worth charging for. Let the device be an invitation, not a diversion. Let curiosity outrun fear. Let kindness stitch any seams you accidentally rip. And remember, history's next chapter is already sinking to the cloud of our collective choices.